Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. The lack of value in ourselves can show up in many ways in our lives. You not being able to say yes to the things that you want to say yes to. Many people think that not being able to say no is the real challenge. But have you ever think about how many things you want, that you want to do, you want to be, and you haven't been able, for whatever reason, to say yes to? Yes to what you want in life, what you want professionally, where you want to live, what you want to wear, what you want to do. The lack of value for yourself speaks to your worthiness, your level of confidence, your courage in face of whatever things life throws at you. On today's podcast episode, I want to share 4 things that will help you get to truly like, love, and respect yourself. In other words, get to value yourself for who you are. And that is, we're going to talk about how to become self-aware, because I believe that self-awareness is the foundation for self-mastery, and to get to that place where we truly value ourselves. And I've talked about self-awareness before, and today we're going to talk about again. And also, we're going to be talking about how to become independent from 3 things: other people's opinions, your possessions, and what you do. So let's get started. Liking yourself starts with valuing yourself, and valuing yourself begins with self-awareness. Self-awareness is about being honest with yourself, is about focusing on what is really the reality of your behavior, and not the story that you keep telling yourself about yourself. Let me repeat that. It's about focusing on the reality of your behaviors and not on the story that you keep telling yourself about yourself. I've said this before when I talked about storytelling, but the most important story of all is the story that you tell yourself about yourself. The ability to take an honest look at your life without attachment to it being right or wrong is the very first step. Self-awareness enables you to design a life that is aligned with who you really are. If you're willing to notice and acknowledge your feelings, your habits, your behaviors, and your thoughts, you can dramatically improve your life. If you're sincere during your self-mastery journey, you will come across many qualities about yourself that you might find difficult to accept. Many people don't have the life that they want because they believe that others don't realize how great they are, how awesome they are, all the things that they have to bring to the table. The truth is that the real reason why they don't have the life that they want is because they are blind to or deny their limitations and their flaws, and they deny any negative aspects about themselves. We all have both positive and negatives, strengths and weaknesses. You were born whole and complete, but over time, you've been conditioned to upset parts of your nature and reject and ignore other parts. Denial of your negative attributes is one of the most significant barriers to valuing and liking yourself, to really, truly value yourself for who you truly are. Integration is the key, and self awareness is the door to achieve success and happiness, all what you deserve and you desire. Self awareness is the minimum requirement, I would say, to get to the point where you truly value yourself. In order to start valuing yourself, you need to acknowledge that there is positives and negatives about you, that you have strengths, but you also have shortcomings, and that is okay because no one is perfect and no one expects you to be perfect. Self awareness, as I said, is the foundation, right? Is the minimum requirement. The next step in your path to valuing yourself is becoming independent to what other people think about you. You start valuing yourself by becoming self aware enough to become independent of what others might think of you. You need to either value yourself or value other people's opinions. It's a choice that we all need to make. Some people choose to value more the opinion that others have about them. I believe that you have to become independent of other people's opinions of you because here is the key, the reason why. Because their opinion of you is 100% about them and not about you. Why do I say this? Let me prove it to you. Think for a second of the top 5 opinions people have expressed about you in the last year. If those opinions were an evaluation of you, they will all be the same. You are the constant in this example. But the variety of opinions is because each person is viewing you through their own lenses. That's what we do. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. We see the world through our own lenses. And that's true about how other people view you. They view you through their own lenses, not through who you are. Everyone is seeing the same thing, yet they have different opinions of you. Their opinion is tinted by their own experiences and their own perspectives. If others' opinions of you were true, really think about it, everyone would have the same exact opinion about you. Think about a time that you were maybe presenting at a meeting. And if you were to ask feedback to people about how you did, some people might think that you did great, that you did awesome. And other people might list all the mistakes that you made through your presentation. Yet they were all there in the same room or through the same screen watching you make that same presentation. The constant was you. The variation was how other people interpreted how they were seeing you because they were seeing you through their own lenses. When you let other people's opinion impact you, you will have all those negative feelings about yourself. And inside those negative feelings, you can't value yourself. The only opinion that matters is yours. The only person's opinions that should concern you is your own opinions of yourself. The only reason other people's opinions affect you is because you have not filled up your own cup. When you are self-aware, you learn how to value your true whole self. You will prioritize your opinion over others, and you will know exactly what you need and when. That other people's opinions on what you should do will not shake you. And you will be able to prioritize your opinion over them. Anytime that someone's opinions of you starts to impact you, remember one thing. Their opinions are 100% about them and not you. When you stop prioritizing other people's opinion, you will feel empowered to say yes to the things that you want to say yes to. Asking for that promotion, wearing that dress, start that personal project that you have been dreaming of. The only reason why you haven't done these things is because you are afraid of other people's opinion. So when you start valuing yourself for who you are working on your self awareness, because I think it's an ongoing journey. Because as I said last week, we grow, we expand, we change over time. So we're constantly in this process of getting to know ourselves and building our self-awareness. But when you work on your self-awareness and you prioritize your opinions over other people's opinions, it's going to be so much more easy to say yes to the things that you really want to say yes. Those things that you have been holding back to do because you were so concerned about other people's opinions of you. Next, you want to become independent of what you have, of your possessions. You are not valuable because of the things that you possess. Anything that you own can be replaced, removed from your life. Things, places, people, they come and go. The only thing that is always there is you. When you use a person, place, or thing to dictate your value, when that person, place, or thing is gone, your value will go away with them and you will lose your identity. You probably have heard about Trent Shelton. He's a former NFL player. And I love his story because it really reaffirms this concept of valuing yourself and making sure that your identity revolves about who you are and not your possessions, right? He was a former NFL player that was cut off the NFL, and his life, he says, his life was football. So when he lost that, when he was cut off, he lost himself. He had attached his value and his identity to football. So when he lost football, he lost himself. And he had to come in this journey to revalue himself and put him in the center of his life again, versus having football as the center around which his life revolved. Liking yourself means seeing value in you because of you, not because of what you have. So, as I'm go through all these different things that can help you start valuing yourself, think about that they're building upon each other. They're like building blocks, right? So, we said the self-awareness is the minimum requirement to start valuing yourself. When you value yourself, you're able to prioritize your opinions over other people's opinions. When you prioritize your opinions over others' opinions, you can value yourself for who you are and not about any person, place, or thing that you possess. The next level or the next building block is to become independent of what you do. Before you can embark on being, you have to make space by cutting out some of the compulsive doing. Doing is the actions that you take, it's your behaviors, it's your habits. Being is who you are. It's what's underneath all the doing. It's your thought patterns, it's your feelings. Doing gives you a sense of control. When you set out to make a change, you usually attempt it in a doing level, right? You try to do new things. But in most cases, you haven't updated that being level. So what ends up happening is that you revert back to your old habits and behaviors. The change doesn't stick because you must first shift who you are. I've talked about identity and the power of identity many times in this podcast. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you want to be more organized. To solve that problem, you could change what you do by ordering a bunch of, you know, shelves and boxes and other types of organization products, right, in the container store. You stock up, you go home, and you start organizing all your stuff. But if you are like most people, you'll find yourself in a chaotic mess within a few not months, weeks of having organized and clean your house. Why? Because doing something new doesn't shift your mindset about being an organized person. That should be the goal, the being. Who is that you need to become in order to be more organized versus what you have to do to be more organized. The doing always will follow the being, but the being not necessarily will follow the doing. You are not valued because of your actions. You are valued for being. You're not valued for preparing dinner for your family. You're valued because you're the type of person that has the capacity to do and chooses to do it. But if one day you're not able to cook dinner for your family, it doesn't mean that you don't have value. You need to figure out what is in your being that makes you valuable. And you can't uncover that unless you're self aware. So it all comes back once again to that self awareness. That being level might seem trickier and sometimes even scarier, but it's also where powerful, sustainable change is created. And the beauty is that if you address the being level, then the doing level takes care of itself. It's almost like magic, right? Those habits, those routines will become so much more easier if you're very clear on who you are, on the being. So, to wrap today's episode, I want to close with a little bit of a conclusion, right? What did we cover this week on the podcast episode? We talk about that you need to value yourself first because you are your most valuable asset. You value yourself not because you like your strengths, but because you are deeply self-aware of both your strengths and your shortcomings. And you like you for your whole self. You start to value yourself, to like and love yourself because you know yourself. When you are self-aware, truly self-aware, you're able to become independent of other people's opinions, independent of your possessions and your actions. And when you do that, you truly and fully value yourself. You are who you are because of who you are. And you need to allow yourself to show up and act for who you are. And that doesn't mean that valuing yourself means that you can't evolve, that you can't grow, that you can't become a better version of yourself. Of course, we're always want to be better, but we can't get to a point where we become better unless we start by being self-aware and by valuing ourselves. Because if we don't value ourselves, we're not going to show up as our whole selves. And if we don't show up as our whole selves, we're not going to be able to become that better version of ourselves that we're striving to become. So this is really that foundation. Self-mastery is the foundation for self-improvement. I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast episode. If this was helpful, please make sure that you go to Apple Podcasts and you leave me a review. Those reviews really help to increase the visibility and the reach of the podcast. While you're there, make sure that you subscribe so you get notifications of any upcoming new episodes. And if you can think of anyone, a friend, a family member, a colleague at work, anyone that can benefit from today's content, please make sure that you share the link with them. And with that, I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you here again for a new episode of the Leading Yourself podcast.